The dream job. Film director, movie director, filmmaker. It's tough to talk about things that you really want. And I'm like, that's kind of what I want to do. I want to control people in a malicious kind of... So I decided to become a movie director. Project 1 and Project 2. We'd rather make a 2-hour-long movie that's going to cost us a lot of money and not have any future. We raised $75,000. And before we could raise this money, we needed to have a script. And it was odd, and it was strange. Now, post-production was a whole nother nightmare back in the day with film. I think we took about 18 months to do the post-production on this thing. We bought an old moviola and moved it into my room. And in my room, I shared a room in an apartment with a roommate, and we had bunk beds. And he's like, what's this? Like, we're just cutting the movie in here. How long is it going to take? And this was like, August. And I go, it should be out by Thanksgiving of the next year. I didn't tell him that part. I don't really want to go too much into post-production because then you sound like an old-timer. And most of the techniques we used are just boat anchors. It's like learning blacksmithing. Blacksmithing actually has a purpose. People still blacksmith. I don't know what this was like. Name something that's obsolete. That's what I learned how to do. So we finished the movie. We have a big screening at the 4-Star Theater in Los Angeles. That was just a highlight for me. It was fantastic. We had a lot of people come out to it. Very fun. Everybody's very excited to work on the movie. No one's telling you, man, your movie sucks. No one's telling you that because they just knew you put a lot of effort into it, and a lot of money. And then we were going to try to get a distributor. And so we went to the independent feature market in New York City at the Tribeca Center. We're like, okay, this is where we're going to get this thing. When you get to post-production back then, it seemed like if you wanted titles, that was $2,000. Oh, you wanted this? Oh, that's $2,000. Oh, you wanted that? That's $2,000. Everything seemed like it cost $2,000. And so we need plane tickets to go to New York. Guess how much? $2,000. Well, at the time, I was working as a blood delivery driver. C job, whatever number that was. I wonder if I told that story in that one. I'll tell it in this one again, because maybe I'd like to hear it twice. So I'm working there, and one of the blood technicians in Fountain Valley, we're chatting, and he's asking me what I'm doing. And again, I've been doing this job. It's been like an undercurrent, like a raving, lunatic behind the last 10 jobs. And he asked me what I'm doing. I'm like, we did this and this. And he goes, I'd like to see it. And so I had like a rough cut on VHS, and so I show it to him. I come back the next week, and he goes, man, I loved it. I thought it was great. He goes, let me know next time you do something like that, because I like to invest in things like that. And I'm like, really? Well, because actually we're taking this film to New York, and we need some money. He goes, I'll invest. So the next week he shows up. I show up at Fountain Valley to deliver my blood, and he's got a check, and he invests, and I got the contracts out there, boom, and we get the money, and we can go to New York. And I say, wow, it's kind of ironic because this is my last day as a blood driver, because I'm moving on. I'm going to work at 20th Century Fox here for Laurie Perlman. And he goes, that's ironic as well, because this is my last day. I just got a new job, in Irvine. And so he writes me the check. He signs the contract, and I've never seen him since, and he's never seen me since. We get to New York, and you think that you're doing this amazing thing, like you're really putting yourself out there, and people are making big sacrifices for your vision and your movie. And you go to New York, and like everybody has been doing this, and everybody's spent $100,000 on a movie, and everyone's like, you thought you were special. You're not that special. And it's a bit of a disappointment. Sheila was a bit of a disappointment. Didn't really get any jobs off of it. No one thought that. And this guy's incredible. We need to sign him up as some sort of amazing filmmaker. Nothing like that happened for me. And when we're talking about making money, why this is even in here, the reason I'm able to put it on here is because we four-walled it. Four-walling it is when you take it out to some theater. In this case, it was the Pageant Theater, which you'll remember was where I saw Eraserhead back when I was in high school. We took it to the Pageant Theater and we four-walled it so you'd kind of rent out the theater, and then people would pay to come see it. So we got some money that way. And then we also, when I was in Salt Lake, I took it to when I was in Provo, took it to Salt Lake to this independent cinema called Cinema in Your Face, and we had a midnight movie screening of it there, and people paid some money there. And then most recently, just a couple weeks ago, I recut it. I watched the film, And it got to the point I'd see it over the course of the years, and I'm like, oh my gosh, what was I thinking? And boy, I wish I could have a do-over. And so I thought, oh well, I can put this whole thing on a digital editing software, and I can have a do-over. And I ended up cutting, Sheila and the Brainstem. That title right there, that should be a 90-minute movie. Instead, it was like a little over 2 hours long. And so you watch it now, it's like, wow, that's a bit long. And so I ended up cutting out stuff that if the performances weren't up to snuff, before I would just leave them in. Now I'm just like, I'm cutting them out. And if the writing was not good, I'm like, oh, I have to stay. No, I cut that out. And so I went through the whole movie and I just made cuts. I ended up cutting 40 minutes out of the film. And now I can actually watch it. I four-walled it again here in the Okanagan in Vernon, British Columbia. And we had a bunch of people show up, and it was so exciting for me to see it up on the big screen with the music cranked and appreciative audience. And my wife sitting there, she's next to me, she's laughing, and it was kind of a nice closure. Even though it had lots of disappointment and there's lots of baggage accompanying that, to see that movie just fresh was fantastic. The acting is surprisingly good. I mean, I'll probably put it up on YouTube here in the next day or two. And, the acting holds up. And because I cut it down, the themes come out stronger. Anyway, I'm pretty happy with it now. And, I'm not, like before people would talk about, oh, God, I wouldn't show it to you. So, I'm not going to show it to you. But now it's not too bad. I think that this thing's in my shot. I've got a drifting microphone. It's like, hey, I want to be in the shot. What is the legacy of this film? When one of my investors, she was my next door neighbor, and she was a veterinarian. Well, she was married to a veterinarian, and she invested. And so obviously if you're an investor, you got a VHS copy of the film. And she gave that to her grandkids who went to Berkeley, and they just thought it was fantastic. And when I went years later, I went to her funeral. Just happened to be there, and I went to her funeral, and her grandkids were there. And I said, oh, I'm sorry for your loss. I'm Matt McDowell. You're Matt McDowell? You did Sheila and the Brainstem? I go, yeah. At Berkeley, we used to have Sheila and the Brainstem nights where we'd all have a Saturday night. We'd all put the movie on. We'd all watch it. And I would say, yeah, this is the guy was like, yeah, my grandmother invested in this movie, which, was pretty cool. Yeah, because it's a strange film. It's very strange. And it's cool to have your hip grandmother as an investor. So that was good. And then, just like 3 or 4 years ago, this guy contacted me, and he saw the film at that pageant screening when he was in college. He saw it, and he remembered it. And this is probably 20 years later, and he remembered it, and he contacted me. He said, hey, we want to do it, again, in Berkeley. I guess it's a Berkeley thing. He says, I'm involved in this theater production group, and we want to do Sheila and the Brainstem as a stage play. Can I get a copy of it, and we can do it as a stage play? And I'm like, sure. So I sent him a copy of it. I don't know if they ever did it as a stage play, but people remembered it, which is nice. Almost done here. Whew, I'm making it through. Yikes. So I talked about how I recut it. It'll probably be up on YouTube. I showed it to some of my students when I was a film instructor, and they were very inspired by it. They're like, you made this when you were a student? I'm like, yeah. And it's pretty impressive, I think, a couple students making this thing. Because it was really just Russ and I. I mean, some days it was just he would be he'd be running camera, and I'd be laying in the back of the station wagon running sound. Some days we'd have big crews, we'd enlist as many people as we could. But some days it was just he and I and maybe one other person, George Loftman, or it was a skeleton crew. It was a lot of fun though. That's job number 27, my dream job. And when I think about it, it's bittersweet. Because now that I've re-edited it, the themes still hold up. They're almost even more relevant today than they were back then. And I have to say that, would I have done it again? I'm not going to get into that. Would you live your life again? You just keep moving forward. And unfortunately with that one, I didn't quite keep moving forward with that. I kind of got stuck in that one and kind of held on to the disappointment of that movie for many years. But now, with that last screening at the Vernon Town Theater, kind of had a nice little success, nice little button to it. Got a great poster out of it for that screening, and now it's something that I can be proud of. So, thanks for watching. Tell your friends. I'll have a link down here maybe to where you can watch it on YouTube. You can at least the trailer, and I'll probably put the actual film up on YouTube. Why not? Why not? That's what you do these days. Okay. See you next time. Oh my gosh. I might have to separate that into two. That's a long one. It might be a part 1 and part 2 on that one.